Good afternoon. I'm Zolly Smith. I'm working on my assignment for World Geography from Winston-Salem State University. It's been a very important class, a very informative class. I'm 59 years old, almost 60, and I've got a brand new, beautiful new granddaughter that I try to bring into every assignment and every conversation I have these days. But I think even more so with her coming along, you know, and you just think about what's the world going to be like in her lifetime and all the changes I've seen in mine, and the world just getting smaller and smaller. So I've thoroughly enjoyed learning about the different areas of the world. And I think it's important for everybody as an American citizen to learn everything we can. The world, like I say, this, especially now with this crisis with the coronavirus, it's just showing us how small the world has become, and we're all in this together, and we just need to look at the world experience as we're all citizens of the world. We're all Americans, proud to be Americans, but we're all part of the global community. And if this virus is teaching us anything, I think it needs to teach us we're all in this together. But throughout the class, I thought a lot about my son Cooper is always interested in a lot of different things like I am, and he's also a United States Navy veteran. So I thought it'd be interesting to interview him for this video assignment, specifically about Oceania, which was, we'll start with Cooper. So how long were you in the Navy?
4 years, right out of high school.
2008 to 2012?
Yep, that's correct.
So where were you stationed?
Well, I was stationed out of Hawaii, Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, yeah. So how many countries did you visit? Well, so you went out on the ship. What was the name of your ship?
The USS Chong-hoon. It's a guided missile destroyer named after Gordon Chong-hoon. It's Hawaii's first admiral and also Hawaii's first Secretary of Agriculture.
Oh, okay.
And a survivor of the sinking of the USS Arizona.
He was on there?
He was late to work that day. He was.
Oh man, that was him. I mean, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And Hawaiian.
In
Hawaii.
A native, yep. Chinese, ethnic Hawaiian.
And then it wasn't even a state then.
Nope.
So he was serving in the United States Navy and was not even technically an American citizen.
Right, and he had Chinese and Japanese family, and if I understand correctly, his Japanese family were in internment camps in California.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I want to invite Cooper to be on the in this video. So, well, good. So you were stationed in Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. I guess really only out there. You were in 4 years, but say 2.5 years out of Pearl Harbor.
2.5 years out of Pearl, yeah.
So y'all would go out on tours of duty on the ship. How long would they last?
9 months.
So you'd go out from Pearl Harbor and be gone 9 months.
Right.
How many countries did you visit?
14, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Maybe ballpark.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking on this lesson we were doing, the map and everything. That was all, I guess, the whole time. Maybe not, because what all countries did you visit?
Well, in Oceania.
But all together.
You went to the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, lots of times, Japan, Hong Kong, never mainland China, but Okinawa and Iwo Jima, and which I assume are probably in Oceania, and then Samoa, American Samoa, Tahiti, a lot of places in Polynesia, not so much in Melanesia, a lot of places in Micronesia, Palau, some far-flung Micronesian islands.
All right. Mm-hmm. So, South Korea?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, you went to South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was a little bit unusual. You crossed the international date line.
Yes.
And the equator.
Yes, the 180th meridian and the equator at the same spot.
It's kind of unusual.
Yeah, certainly. That's called being a golden shellback.
Golden shellback.
Yeah, it's
Navy vernacular there.
It is. It's a proud fraternity.
Anybody that Navy veterans would recognize that term.
Certainly.
So, in dealing with the local people, when you went on these different, so you would go and stay visit the ports. in some of these different countries, right?
Right, for various reasons.
Resupply or
Resupply or diplomatic reason. The Chonghun is not attached to a carrier strike group, an aircraft carrier battle fleet. So it's just a small 509-foot destroyer with 160 people on it. So we could go to a lot of places and do, unique missions that didn't require the huge, deep harbors of, say a Singapore or a Hong Kong. So we could go keep the sea lanes free of piracy and far-flung Polynesia, and then we would pull in and maybe get some fresh fruit or just have a liberty port. A lot of times we would just be in a port, and have a couple days of liberty and go out and see what there was to see and interact as much as we could, and it was quite a time.
Vietnam?
You
also went to Vietnam?
Yeah, we pulled into Da Nang. Yeah.
That's an American military guy. Huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what was in dealing with the locals when you did? What would you say their impression was of Americans?
Well, it varied. It varied just as drastically as any kind of human interaction can vary. I think it was important to try to be a good ambassador as a young American, and try to do what we could to make our country and our parents proud back home. But, interaction with them on a personal level was very much like an interaction with anybody else. Friendly, if you're friendly and cooperative and engaging for the most part, and then sometimes not so much.
But I think we've talked about it before, and where you were, these were seaports, and so really from time immemorial these seaports have been conducting commerce.
Right, yes.
And so there's a lot of that was their livelihood.
Yes.
Whatever.
I think it was
tattoos or what, restaurants or
cargo
or what have you.
Containers, yeah. I think you're right. So I think it was much more out of the ordinary for me, certainly, than it was for them. They,
right. As a
yeah.
19-year-old North Carolinian. Huh?
Yeah. The people at the docks and the wharfs in Hong Kong are no stranger to people from all over the world pulling in. But as far as Oceania and Palau, for instance, that's a different story altogether. So those were indescribably different interactions, and the people in Palau don't, we weren't in the capital island. We were a couple islands down, and they weren't. Well, I understand the old capital was, but they don't get shipping containers or commerce, or I think their tourist industry has picked up in years since, but mostly just locals and very tribal. And another thing that struck me, say if you're sailing through the Straits of Malacca, on one side is Singapore, arguably one of the, a primate city if there ever was one. Just huge,
right,
global powerhouse. And then on the other side, in the line of sight would be, say the coast of Indonesia, just tribal cook fires and, just
within sight of each other.
Oh
my goodness.
Yeah, so those contrasts are really apparent in Oceania as a whole, and that's the impression that is stuck with me the most. The range of civilization, it's the most widespread geographic region on Earth, and
right. We studied that. Yeah. That came up in the lesson.
Yeah. So the contrasts, you have everything from tribal to mega city, Honolulu, Fort Moresby, all the way to the village in Palau.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Where would you say was the most beautiful?
Well, the most beautiful landscape, I would say, would be Palau. The most beautiful interactions, maybe Tahiti. Palau is very much like the Philippines, limestone. Uh, I don't know if you guys went over Darwin's theory of uh, corals slowly rising up out of the ocean as they get bigger over the thousands of years.
Well, we did learn in this lesson. I don't guess I ever knew it, that you always hear about him in the Galapagos, but he went on out through Oceania and up through.
Yeah, I think
much more longer trip than I googled it after I read that, because I'd never heard it. But yeah, he didn't leave the Galapagos and go home. He went on the HMS Beagle.
Yeah,
was out on for quite a while.
Yeah, and he's obviously more well known for his other theories, but his theory on how atolls and coral limestone islands form, coral islands, and then how they form is very fascinating. But Palau is limestone, cliffs that have risen out of the sea, and they call them rock islands. I mean, some the size of a house, some the size of a county. Just thousands and thousands and thousands of them, maybe 6,000 of them make up the island nation of Palau.
Just Palau.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so there's absolutely no reason to have a road if the town would be spread out across a few islands, and so it's all water, and that part of Palau is surrounded by a coral reef that makes the water inside the islands really calm. They call it a marine lake.
Mm,
so
cool.
It's seawater, salt water, ocean water, but it's just
calm. No waves, no tide.
Tide certainly, but
so it does come up and down with the tide,
mm-hmm.
but no rocking waves.
Right. Very little compared to outside of the coral reef that acts like a levee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if Palau was your favorite or most beautiful, what was the least favorite? What was the worst thing you saw? I'm sure you saw some inner city and.
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful. Probably the least beautiful place, I would say, just it's hot. Guam is a place that a lot of sailors go. It has a reputation, it's hot. Okinawa was really hot. Those places that have American military installations. As far as the countries, I would hate to criticize anybody's home, but there are some places on the outskirts of town, say like in Cebu, in the Philippines, or Puerto Princesa in the Philippines, that get a little bit dicey late at night for a sailor, or probably for anybody, but Cebu's a big port.
Was there a lot of pollution? Did you remember?
Certainly.
Yeah.
In the middle of the ocean there, I was always surprised about the amount of trash you could see.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Out there in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
The trash islands like you hear about. Huh?
Yeah, very much so. Exactly like you hear about.
Ah.
That's the real.
Just what kind of trash?
All kind of speckles of trash, just trash.
Flowing with the current, huh?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like you would see, wood chunks in an eddy on a river, just
right.
little pieces of trash.
Oh, my goodness.
Unidentifiable trash.
Way away, long ways from land, huh?
Yeah.
About as far from land as you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but one thing I was going to ask you about, and I always thought a lot about, we visited you in Honolulu, or in Hawaii, in Pearl Harbor. And how did the indigenous Hawaiians view American statehood?
Well, that's an interesting question. I am hesitant to speak for them, but I will say I think the overwhelming opinion, is that I was exposed to is that it's a double-edged sword. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, if you
right.
will.
Yeah.
So they lost a lot of their indigenous ways of life and their even their freedom of movement on their own islands. Property taxes are through the roof. It's a very expensive place to live. So the native populations and the Hawaiian Filipinos or Hawaiian mainland Asians, the population of Hawaiian residents, tax-paying Hawaiians are, pushed to these corners of the. It's certainly on Oahu and Maui. It's a different story a little bit. They kind of embrace the resorts and the tourism dollar in some sections, and then off on the eastern side of the island, around the mountain, that they can be very rural, farming families. But I think that their opinion would be that statehood is a double-edged sword. Some of them are vehemently against statehood. I couldn't say what they think would be a better option, but
well, don't some of them see it would rather be a independent country?
Yeah, yes, certainly, yeah. The Kingdom of Hawaii, the Kamehamehas, or a new royal family, or just some other form of independence. But
I guess I was just so surprised. It's just so beautiful out there, and then you just and we've been out west, and I'm certainly familiar with the treatment of Native Americans, but then really I'd say it's very similar the way they view things. The indigenous Hawaiian people see, they feel like their land and rights have been trampled on. But
certainly, yeah. I would say that it is a double-edged sword. But as far as their opinion on statehood, I think that my friends, and the brothers and sisters that I've met in who are Native Hawaiians, they are Polynesians, and then Americans, I'd say.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So in your different travels, did you